All right, you just talked about Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn, the Fowlers. Before we get into your preview and your thoughts of the matchup coming up April 26th of their sons fighting, I saw recently, and I want to ask you your opinion and provide some clarity to this, an interview on a podcast that's going around on social media where Chris Eubank Sr. said that he had an incident and altercation with you many years ago in the 1980s.
One for Teddy Atlas. Teddy Atlas, I said to him, because it was his fighter I fought, and I said, this guy he's much heavier than me. I said, this is not fair what you did. He said, listen, you lost a fight, just leave it. Okay? I said, no, I didn't. I said, you've cheated me. Okay? Right. Teddy Atlas, I had a fight with him. Mike Tyson, you can check this. Mike would have seen that. Now listen to this. He bit my ear.
Huh? Look at that. You see how
Teddy Atlas bit my ear in a physical fight I had with him after this first loss I had.
Wow.
And that would be nice because I love looking at this guy because he's a real kind of I don't want because I'm not being derogatory about him, but
he's a character.
Yes, but he's a rough. I love dogs, okay? But he looks like a rough dog. He talks like a rough dog. Do you understand? He's old school. Do you understand?
Yeah.
So
again, something that you've never talked about publicly. It's never been heard of, but he put it out there. And since he did, I just wanted you to be able to have a chance and piggyback off of it. But if you could just touch on that altercation, he said that you were a rugged, tough man. What was he talking about? And just for the viewers out there, since he put it out there, what did happen?
No animosity at all. I have nothing but respect for Chris Eubank, both of them, but in particular right now, Chris Eubank Sr. I have respect for the man he is, the fighter he became. This is a guy who, and I have to say this, as long as I'm going to touch on it, this is a guy who, he went to America to get, the little bit I know, to get amateur fights, to get better training, to get training that he thought would help him as an amateur. And then he got that, he fought amateur, and then he went back to England, and he was smart. He had a plan. He had an idea. He really did. You got to give people like that credit. He had a plan for his life, and he had the discipline to enact that plan, and the creativity to see it, to visualize it. And it was to be a world champion fighter, but also to be a world champion promoter. To go over to England where he knew that over there they don't have as, it's not as crowded as it is here with fighters and with attention to the fighters to get on TV here, to be a star here. You got to practically be like, a Mike Tyson. I'm exaggerating, but I'm just making a point. But over there, they were more thirsty for not just for athletes and for champions, but for champions they could identify with, for champions that they could get excited about. And he became that guy. He became, one of those guys where he created a niche for himself, more than a niche. He created a career. He was undefeated. He was very strong, good puncher, good fighter. He knew exactly what he wanted to be, outside the ring and inside. As a businessman, as a guy that was successful, where he could take care of his family, where it was going to pay off for him, where it was going to be smart business, not just doing it only just to be a fighter. But no, I'm going to do it to make money, to take care of my family, and to be a champion, and to be recognized. And where being recognized in that way will pay dividends for me in the way I want it to, as being a star. And the discipline was in the ring too. He had the discipline outside to do that, and in the ring he had the discipline to fight the exact right way he needed to for his abilities. Strong, physically strong, fight on the outside, look to let other guys take chances, try to counter him, try to catch him on the way in, try to be as productive a boxer as he could be. Efficient, effective, and dangerous. Because he was powerful. And if he made you take chances, he had a chance to catch you on the way in. What I just described really deserves really great credit that he planned that way. Part of his plan early in his life was he was in New York. I guess he was getting amateur fights. He happened to be in the Bronx. If my memory serves me correct, it's over 40 years ago. I forgot about it until you brought it up that he talked about it. And I would only talk about it in a respectful way because I have respect for him. We were both different people, younger, a lot younger. Again, I think it was 43 years ago now that you say it. And we're in the Bronx. They had fights. They had smokers in the Bronx. Nelson Cuevas used to run the fights there at the Apollo. I used to take my amateurs there. When I was up in Catskill, I would take Mike Tyson. I would take all my team there to get experience, to get fights. Because after you worked hard with them to be a fighter, and you in the gym, now you had to go get fights. You had to get experience. And there wasn't a lot of that upstate. So I took them down to the Bronx where every week you had smokers. And like I said, Nelson Cuevas at the Apollo on Westchester Avenue, they had fights. And we made the fights. And now I left Catskill. I had left, I don't know if I was still in Catskill or not. I think I had left Catskill. I know he had mentioned that Tyson was there. I'm not sure Tyson was there. I'm sure that he's being honest, that that's his recollection. But I don't know, because when I went there when Tyson was around. I brought all my amateurs from Catskill. But then when I left Catskill and I walked away from there, I began training fighters when I came down to New York in Gleason's gym in Manhattan. And when I was developing amateurs, just like I did up in Catskill, I needed a place to get experience. Where did I take them? I took my new stable of fighters, this new venture I was doing with new kids down in New York. I would take them to the Apollo and other places that were available to get experience. I think, again, it's a long time ago, God, I think that I had a fighter named Jose Ortiz, I believe. He was a good kid. I think I had a fighter, I don't know if that was his name, or anyway, Jose. I had a fighter that was like a junior middleweight, middleweight, somewhere around there. And I believe they fought. Again, it's a long time ago. The only thing that revisited my memory was when you showed me that tape that Chris talked about that moment. Then I started remembering what I can remember. What I remember that differs with him a little bit, and again, I'm sure it's his memory. I don't know if I still was in Catskill at that time and I had Tyson, or I was with a different group of fighters I was developing, like I said, down here in Gleason's, continuing my life as a trainer, having left Catskill. And I had this kid, Jose, there. Whatever it was, I had a fighter matched to fight Chris. I don't remember much about it. They fought, I guess. We won the fight. And there was an altercation, little disagreement in the locker room after the fight. Look, Chris is what he is. He's a proud man. I'm kind of proud too. And he's a proud man. He was a young fighter. He had, and he felt he lost the fight. Obviously, he expected to win. Obviously, that bothered him. It should bother him. That's why he became a world champ. It showed right there that he had the makings of a world champ, because it did bother him. Because he was competitive. He didn't want to lose. And if it didn't bother him, he probably wouldn't have became what he became. So he came back in the locker room and I guess he addressed me. I guess he accused me of saying that my fighter was heavier than his. But really, we had a scale. You know, we're up near the L's where the trains came back. They shook the whole place. You know, we were in a tough area in the South Bronx. We didn't have no fancy scales, but you had a bathroom scale, and the bathroom scale, they got on it. He wouldn't have gotten in the ring if he didn't get on the scale. So whatever the scale said, I don't know how I would have done anything to, you know, fraudulate that or fix that or cheat. But again, he believes it that way, then I can only say I don't remember it that way. I don't remember a lot about it other than that me and him get into a little, you know, tassel. Because he was proud. He was saying I cheated, I guess, basically, or that your fighter was too heavy. And I guess I was trying to explain to him, like, how could he be too heavy if you got on the scale and he got on the scale? What's the matter? You know, maybe I was a wise guy. What's the matter? You can't read the numbers? You couldn't see what, you know, whatever. When you get into that spot, he's proud. I'm not going to let him, you know, intimidate me or bulldoze me or get away. So we got into what sometimes people get into. We got into a little bit of a skirmish. And I did hear on the video, though, as long as we're talking about it, because again, I didn't remember this, but he did say, and he was very gentlemanly. He's a gentleman. He wasn't a gentleman at that moment, but he was always a gentleman. He conducts himself like a gentleman. I have respect for him, obviously, as you can tell, what he made himself. But in the way he conducts himself now. But he mentioned to the people who were doing the interview that I bit him. I bit his ear. I don't remember that. You know, I hope he has a full ear. I would feel terrible to find out that, you know, because if I saw him, I would give him a hug and say, hey, Chris, because I've seen him after. I would give him a hug, but now I'd probably hug and look and see, you know, did I really do that? Did I do that? I don't, listen, I'm joking with a situation. I thank God it didn't turn out to be serious, right? 43 years later, we can do that, right? We can do that as human beings that have gotten to the right place in life now, that are better, that are smarter, that are more mature now. I was doing what I thought I had to do, defending my fighter. He was doing what he had to do, defending himself and his pride. I get it. I understand. I respect it. But Chris, if you ever hear this, I hope I didn't bite your ear. I don't remember that. If I did, hope it was just a very, very quick little, you know, nibble, kind of like my grandkids do to me. I hope it wasn't anything significant.